Hello and welcome to our conference, Digital Fabrication, the New Normal. I'm Brie Trevina, Research Leader with Arup Foresight and Research in the Australasia region. I'm really delighted to welcome over 500 of you who've registered for this session. It really is proof that knowledge sharing remains alive even in these uncommon days and can perhaps even create new opportunities for us to work, collaborate and share ideas for the future of our industry. I'll be acting as the Master of Ceremonies today. So you'll see me throughout the session first to introduce each of our 5 speakers. Our speakers are going to spend about 5 minutes sharing projects, thoughts and provocations. And during this time, I'll also be reminding you to add your questions that you might have to the chat box to the right. Or if you're having any trouble with that function, we'll also pin an email address there so you can send questions through. And if you're comfortable, please do add your name and where you're from so we can share that as well. These questions are going to feed into the second half of our session, which we'll be spending with our panel members and some other experts from Arup in a session facilitated by Graham Dodd. So please do send those questions through so we can shape our conversation to respond to what you would most like to know. So now I'm going to hand over to Graham, who is going to provide some context for our session today. And I think there's perhaps nobody better to do so. Graham is a maker turned designer, and he brings an extraordinarily rounded understanding of the intimate relationship between the two. As an engineer who's worked with glass since 1988, Graham leads a team of Arup materials experts, and he has designed facades, structural glass assemblages, and sculptural installations around the world. As an Arup Fellow, Graham promotes excellence in design and the use of materials both within Arup and with the wider industry. So joining us from London, over to you, Graham.
Thank you very much, Brie, and welcome everybody to our event this evening, this morning, wherever you are in the world, dealing with the lockdown caused by COVID-19, or I'm delighted to see many people getting back to work and getting back to a new kind of normal life. And well, we've called this event Digital Fabrication, the New Normal, because actually this is the transformation that's been happening within our field of design and engineering, as I see it. And I can promise you one thing from today, and that is no pavilions. Our speakers would illustrate challenges that have been overcome and complexity that's been simplified in real buildings, real structures, by incorporating digital processes into their thinking as they imagine how projects will be built. And I say imagine because that's a crucial step in what a designer does. They imagine what will be and how it will be made. And so we're talking about a new normal in this context, because I believe we're past the tipping point before which digital ways of making parts of the built environment were regarded as interesting but impractical, full of promise but full of risk, or the way they'll do it after I retire. We're past that point. And while some tremendous pioneers were demonstrating at expos what could be built if you really wanted it, manufacturers, fabricators, contractors and engineers have been using digital fabrication methods to pursue those perennial drivers: economy, efficiency, safety and speed. And they've been discovering that the complexity that these methods really simplify it, helps us reduce the carbon footprint of our built environment. And when we use digital fabrication as an imaginative a toolkit, there's a range of things that this can do. It ranges from capturing the reality of existing works, cutting material, shaping it, adding it and joining it, right through to placing the components precisely in space. And all the designers you hear from today consider it completely normal to design with those digital fabrication techniques in mind, and to imagine how the rapidly developing range of techniques might be reconfigured to suit their purposes. in the way that the digital technology makes so easy for us to make better projects ultimately. And they all love a challenge, as you'll hear. So if you think of a challenge as they're speaking, a project need that you'd like to hear their response to, please post it in the chat as they're speaking, and we'll respond to that as best we can in the panel discussion. So with no further ado, I will hand back to Bree to introduce our speakers.